These workers are the lucky ones who see the finished product of their labor roll off the line. Every hour of every day, they are witness to this awe-inspiring ceremony. This tremendous wedding of material and man-hours, this climax in the history of man's conquest of the air.
Hello, I'm Paul Ferrace, Director of USS Scott Submarine Memorial, and yes, we're doing another wandering curator, although I wish this guy would wander off a short pier. But anyway, here we are on day 8 of a 9-day show at the Great Big Home and Garden Show, where COD has manned a rather nice booth that was donated to us so we can get the word out. But the show, this is the last year the show will be here at the Cleveland ExCenter, International Exposition, which is a humongous building that was built in the early days of World War II as a defense plant. Now, I grew up just a few miles down Brook Park Road here in Cleveland, and the old people in my neighborhood referred to this as the bomber plant. The younger people in my neighborhood who worked here called it the tank plant, because in the 50s and 60s they were building armored vehicles, tanks, light tanks mostly, and gun motor carriages here for the Army. But it was originally designed and built to construct the B-19 intercontinental bomber, and I have a great image Evan's going to insert in here of some B-19s. It was a competitor to Boeing's B-29. Now, the way we built weapons in World War II, you couldn't wait to test to find out which weapon system was better than the other. If you had a competing system, you built the prototypes concurrently, and you built the factories for them concurrently. So the B-19 was basically a ginormous B-17 or B-24 Liberator on super steroids. The B-29 bomber from Boeing just completely threw everything previously built out the window, and they started from scratch to design and build a super long-range plane utilizing new technologies. And as I said, really kind of starting from the ground up with a whole new design. Now, Boeing built factories in Wichita, Kansas, and up in the Seattle area. This was the only plant built for the B-19, the competitors. Now, there were 2 B-19 prototypes built. One was flown to Cleveland to test the giant hangar door on the north side of the building. I am facing north. You are looking south. So this should give you an idea of the full size of the main hangar aircraft assembly building that is now the ExCenter, or at least until they rename it for its new mission. But what we have here is at least one of the doors. There's 2 doors here. So most of the north wall opens up to allow designed to have allowed the B-19 bomber to exit once it was assembled. I'm just blown away by the enormity of this building, and the fact that you have such wide expanses without supports because you have an airplane. And anybody that doesn't understand that, tanks, this was a tank plant, tanks don't need vast open spaces, but aircraft with 200-foot wingspans do. So there are 2 doors on the north side, and you can see the fact that over here is the 2 giant counterweights. So like a bridge in downtown Cleveland, or the hatches on COD, they're counterbalanced. Your garage door would have a spring tension to pull it up. These counterweights would pull the door up, and you can see these angled brackets. So that tells me there's 2 doors here. And right above the top, the black portion rides in a track that looks like it's about 15 feet. So I don't know if those tracks were shortened or that's the way they were, but that would allow the door to open up, inward and outward, to give you clearance. Now there is a section, if we come down here, there was a high bay section for the tail, and the tail on a B-19 is incredibly tall, and I remember seeing the cutout. Of course, there may have been modifications in the 80 years since, but I do remember seeing the extra high bay for the tail, and I can't discern it right now. But suffice to say, these are the 2 north wall doors that would open to allow the B-19, which was never assembled in here. They flew the one prototype. We found out with our research it was one prototype built. They flew that into Cleveland and they tested it in the building to make sure. So if this is one door, the tail would have to be somewhere here. So there may have been some modifications made. I know these underground bathrooms may or may not have been here. It might be, it might have been put in when it became a tank plant. But in its new mission as a data center or an assembly factory, I don't know what's going to happen, but we do want to record some of the history here at the old Cleveland bomber plant, later the tank plant, and then the ExCenter. This exhibition area is approximately 1/3 the size of the total volume of the main building. There are additional buildings on the south side that put together means that what you can see here is probably 1/4, 1/5 of the entire space that this building occupies or creates. But anyway, it became very apparent early on that the Boeing B-29 was by far the superior design. And by that time, this factory had been built, and the green light went to Boeing. And of course, we know that the Boeing B-29 was the most expensive weapon system of World War II, costing even more than the Manhattan Project that created the atomic bomb. And those early planes had a lot of technical problems, but it allowed Curtis LeMay to really bring a big can of whoop ass to the Japanese cities. Once we got Tinian in the Marianas and we were able to fly massive B-29 missions, they really brought the hurt to the Japanese. And of course we know Enola Gay and Boxcar delivered the first nuclear weapons that sealed the deal for the Japanese surrender. But anyway, the plant didn't build the B-19. It did, however, get used to produce wing spars, some structural components for the B-29, which were then shipped by rail to, I would imagine, Kansas. So it did get some aircraft production. In fact, on the south side of the building is a C-97, which is basically using a lot of engine and wing components from the B-29. That's been out there for about 10 years as a memorial aircraft to represent what was built here in World War II. Now, with the peace, the building was shuttered, and then in the early 50s, or perhaps even before 1950, It was utilized, converted into a tank production facility. They built the M41 Walker Bulldog.
The occasion, delivery to the Army of the first production line new light tank, the T-41. The place, the Cadillac Tank Plant in Cleveland. From Washington, from Detroit, from many far places, gather together top-ranking Army and Navy officers, the ever-present newspapermen, plant officials, important people in the engineering world. This celebration marks the beginning of what will be assembly line production of the Walker Bulldog tank, named in memory of General Walton H. Walker, who died in Korea. High-ranking personnel includes Major General R.W. Beasley and Army Undersecretary Archibald S. Alexander. Last August, this plant was a warehouse, storing millions of pounds of beans, from beans to bulldogs in 7 months, 3 months ahead of target date. Management and high-ranking brass talk it over.
And the M42 Duster, which was basically an M41 chassis with a twin 40mm Bofors gun, similar to what Navy ships use to shoot down kamikazes. That 40mm, twin 40mm gun motor carriage in the Army parlance was very effective in Vietnam for clearing Charlie from the tree lines. Enough said about that. There are a number of M42 Dusters in front of VFW posts in the area because they were built here. My predecessor, Dr. John Faken. Dr. John Faken was a NASA rocket scientist. He went to Ohio University in the 50s. And of course, coming from modest blue-collar family, money for college had to be earned. And so John got a job here one summer building the M41s and the M42s. As he said, every hour here on the production line paid for an hour in the classroom. Now, when he came down to apply for the job, he was dressed in dress pants and a dress shirt, regular dress shoes. And the people doing the hiring, were impressed with his incredible credentials, and he was a real hard-working guy. But they were desperately in need of helpers out on the production plant. So they said, "Can you start right now?" And he said, "Well, absolutely." So they sent him out and showed him. Basically, there were giant wooden rolling carts that had sprockets, drive sprockets for the tank tracks. And his job was to pick these 50-pound star-shaped stampings out, carry them over to the production line, and hand them to the guy that's going to bolt them onto the drive assembly. Well, John was wearing dress clothes, and he very quickly realized, my hands are bleeding, grabbing these sharp, rough castings and stampings. He didn't have any work gloves. And one of the workers saw his hands basically raw hamburger very quickly, said, "Hold on, son." And he went to his lunchbox and grabbed an additional pair of leather work gloves and said, "Put these on." And John could have kissed the guy. So that helped quite a bit, but you had to pick these things up and hold them and walk them over. And John said within an hour or two, he said, "I realized that my dress shirt was just shredded, and so were my dress pants." The guy said, "Yeah, you're going to want to have some cotton overalls, some heavy-duty work clothes," which he went out and bought at first opportunity. So the future skipper of the Cod helped earn his college degree by working in this building tanks for the U.S. Army. My neighbor on the west side of Cleveland, Mr. Bob Gertz, Robert Gertz, he worked out here. He was a driver. So as the armored vehicles came off the production line, he would drive them to a torture track on the south side of the building, where they had mud pits and slopes, and you just drove them and beat the hell out of them just to make sure that everything worked. And once they got through with their torture track, they would pull them up to a hard stand, pressure wash all the mud off, and put the new car sticker on them and ship them off to the Army, where I'm sure they were probably further tested.
That was quite a climb. How does it feel to be coming up a 60% slope?
Well, it's not too bad. We've done this several times, and especially with this tank, you know you're going to make it, so it's not too bad.
Well, what would happen if you had to stop? Can you start up again?
Yes, we can stop right in the middle of the slopes, and we have sufficient braking to hold the vehicle there, and then you can start again and come on up.
Well, you've been driving vehicles here for quite a bit of time. How long have you been driving test vehicles?
I've been driving test vehicles for about 13 years.
13 years. All the time at the Munson test area?
Well, the Munson test area and Perriman and also Churchville.
Well, keep up the good work.
But so yeah, he, my neighbor, we chatted quite a bit over the fence. He worked here at the tank plant. Again, the old folks called it the bomber plant. They're all gone now. Now the old folks remember it as the tank plant. But since about the mid-'80s, it's been the ExCenter. And frankly, it makes a hell of an international exposition center. You know, they've had car shows, the garden show. They've had, I know, a show that Evan goes to, the international tap dancing show, Irish dancing.
That's true.
Irish dancing, you know. Boy, he can really kick his foot out. They built a hole in the roof. They created a big window thing for a Ferris wheel. So they would have an indoor amusement park here.
So cool, so fun. If you're not here, you're the only one. All rides inside, jump up, slide down, spinning around. So cool, so fun. What a great place to meet someone. Party on till after dark at the IX Indoor Amusement Park. It's here today, not gonna stay. Go right away to the IX Indoor Amusement Park. Gotta get to the IX Indoor Amusement Park.
That was a lot of fun. I remember I went to one of the very first years. It was a temporary thing. Usually in the late winter, early spring, they would have the indoor amusement park. Sadly, gangs showed up and kind of took over. So yeah, that stopped. But the floors are 1.5 feet thick. Down below this massive building is a huge basement. The basement there are big ramps that take you down. Hopefully Evan will go and get some B-roll of some of these giant ramps that drive down to the basement. I've walked through there. I've been driven through there on golf carts. Imagine going 30 miles an hour on a golf cart through a pitch black corridor, down a ramp, straight, and then up another ramp, where the only lighting is the light from the floor above coming down the opposite ramp. And I asked the guy driving, I said, how do you know there's not a bum sleeping on the road in the pitch darkness? And he said, well, we'll know when we hit him. But anyway, they would store down there, again, large castings. Given the construction of the ramps, you could drive tanks down to the basement for storage. I know that in the south building, where the roof is lower, there is a second floor or mezzanine that they would drive tanks up the ramp to store up there. Now, the good news is this building will remain. The sad news is it's been sold, and it's going to be either a production facility for somebody or a production facility / data center, because it's got a really impressive power substation. And that substation is going to provide the power-hungry data center with the electricity needed. So sadly, we will no longer have the ExCenter. The history hopefully will remain here. The building is just so huge, and you know, you can do so much with it. Frankly, I don't know why this has been subdivided, why they can't subdivide it for whoever needs it. I mean, can they possibly need it all? I don't know. But anyway, that's a story of Cleveland's ExCenter, and it's a fascinating part of Cleveland's World War II history. Of course, just about 8 miles northeast of where we are right here was the massive Cleveland GM diesel campus, where our diesel engines were built, as were most of the Navy auxiliaries that were powered by GM diesels. So Cleveland had quite a bit of a role in World War II and certainly the Cold War, building even torpedoes. You know, Cleveland was torpedo town for the Navy in the Cold War. So this was the first torpedo, of course, that Cleveland built, but that's covered in another COD video. So last day of the home show, so 9 days of talking to people about COD. Yeah, we got to go dig our submarine out of the snow and ice. Evan, I'm talked out. Hopefully we're going to put some good B-roll in here. So thanks for joining us. Wandering Curator, he's going to wander over there and hopefully not fall down one of those ramps into the dark basement.
Or get hit by a golf cart.
If I'm behind it, I make no guarantees. Thanks for joining us. Hit the like, subscribe, notification bell. Okay, of course, there's history underfoot everywhere. A little known fact, this was Evel Knievel's very first ramp. He was 5 years old on a tricycle, and this was his first ramp to jump over the West 130th kindergarten playground.
Paul, I think you've been here a bit too long.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Never mind.